Okay, good morning 10aPockels. This is just a short video to walk through the exam questions from the week 4 task around deforestation, which is in the Teams assignments. The instructions for it are on Go for School, so if you haven't had a chance to do the exam questions yet, please have a go at that first before watching this video. Okay, I'm just going to run through the questions that I'd set you. I'm going to give you the full range of answers that were possible. Those of you that have had these in, I have marked them already, so you should see some feedback on Teams for that, or on email if you sent them via email. But I'm going to give you, as I say, as we go through the answers for these questions. Okay, so we'll start with at the top. Question 1, it says human activity affects ecosystems. Draw one line from each human activity to the effect on the ecosystem. So I'm going to make sure that I'm clear that I'm talking about effects. First of all, increase in rice fields. An increase in rice fields will increase the amount of methane in the atmosphere. Okay, so that line should go that way. And a destruction of peat bogs, if we've done the other bits of information around peat bogs for this topic, we will have realised that a destruction of peat bogs increases the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Okay, right, so let's move on to the next question where it says deforestation also affects the atmosphere. Give 2 reasons why deforestation takes place. So there's a lot we can choose from here, and I'm going to list all of them so that you have the possibilities of any answers that you could choose from. So we can say to provide land for a variety of reasons. Okay, for farming or agriculture, for quarrying, so mining, that kind of thing, for building, to provide wood. So actually cut, so 2 clear things here. Okay, we're cutting down trees to provide the land area, but also to obtain the wood for building materials. Okay, to provide wood for fuel, or to provide wood for paper. Okay, so there are, you can see 6 different answers there. You just needed to have 2 of those. Okay, any 2 would have been fine. So next part, changes in the gases in our atmosphere can cause global warming. Give 2 possible effects of a rise in the Earth's temperature. Okay, so we're talking about global warming, and we want 2 effects. Okay, not causes of global warming, but the effects of global warming. Again, there's a lot here that we could use. Okay, so we're going to say things like changes in climate. Okay, and you'd want to give some examples. So droughts, floods, etc. Okay. We could also say things like ice caps melting, sea levels rising, and then we can think about things like a reduction in biodiversity. And then we've got a couple of other things that if we're kind of not quite sure if we were searching for something, a couple of other things that could affect this, or sorry, could be an effect. Things like a change in migration, migration patterns, so the way that animals and birds migrate. Okay, obviously if it's warmer in some parts, they might change the timings that they move around. And then a change in the distribution of a species. Okay, so where a species is located. Again, lots of different options there. You just needed 2. Okay, let's go to the next couple of questions. So this is talking about peat bogs. So you remember that most of the work was around peat bogs for this week. Okay, so let's look at the question. Peat is removed from peat bogs. Okay, the peat can be mixed. I'm just going to put this here so it has something to focus on. The peat can be mixed with air and added to garden compost. Okay, so it's mixed with air. That should be a clue for us. The release of carbon dioxide from peat is a problem. So the release of carbon dioxide. Why is the release of carbon dioxide, okay, a problem? Well, we know that carbon dioxide is not good to get into the atmosphere. So give 2 other reasons why gardeners should use less peat-based compost in the future. So they want other reasons, okay? They don't want us to talk about carbon dioxide again. Okay, that's critical. They've already mentioned that. So when you're looking at a question like this, make sure you're clear, okay, on what they're asking you. So anyone, if you mention carbon dioxide again, you wouldn't get a mark for it. So we can say 2 things. Okay, we know that peat bogs are a rich source of wildlife. Okay, and a few people I noticed did say there is a loss of wildlife, or there may be a loss of species or a loss of animals and birds. It's really important that we use the correct terminology here. So we would say a reduction in biodiversity. Okay, it's really key that we use that term, biodiversity, and we talk about there'll be a reduction in biodiversity. Now the second, there's only really 2 answers to this that we could have, so we'd need to know both of them to get the 2 marks. Okay, so we can say that peat is actually non-renewable. Now we could say, hang on a second, I thought peat was made as trees kind of got crushed down and that kind of thing. But the fact is that the reason we say it's non-renewable is it is being used faster than it forms. Okay, so we're using the peat much quicker than we would than is allowing it to be reformed. Okay, so those are your 2 answers that you need for that question. Right, we'll move on to the last question. Okay, so this is our 4 marker. Explain why mixing peat with air leads to release of carbon dioxide. Okay, so this is an explanation question. We've got to make 4 key points here. Okay, so I'm going to just highlight those 4 key points that you're going to need to make. Okay, so the first thing is that the decomposition or decay or decomposing of the peat, so the rotting peat, okay, that's the first key bit, okay, by microorganisms or bacteria when it mixes with the air produces CO2. Why does it produce CO2? Well, okay, the bacteria respire. Okay, so that process, decomposition, we know produces CO2. Okay, but the bacteria themselves also respire. Okay, using. So how does respiration take place? Well, respiration is the remember the reverse of photosynthesis. It uses glucose. It uses some sort of nutrient, okay, as a reactant. So bacteria respire using the peat as a reactant in that process. Okay. Also, what does it need to respire? It needs to use oxygen as oxygen so it uses that peat and the oxygen to respire and then produce CO2. So we've got 2 processes going on. Okay, we've got the decomposition and we've got the respiration. That's key. You get a mark for each of those, and then you get a mark for talking about what actually happens in that. So you get a mark to say that in decomposition the microorganisms are breaking down the peat and producing CO2, and in respiration they are using the oxygen and using the peat to respire and produce CO2. Okay, and that would be our 4 marks, and our total overall was 12 marks. Okay, now I have, as I say, I've marked your own answers yourselves on Teams or on email and fed back any comments for that. If you have any questions about those, please do let me know. There will be further exam questions coming your way after half term. Okay, thank you very much and good luck.